Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one, we're going to be breaking down the pre-season data for all 20 Premier League teams so far. We're going to be looking at certain individuals and standout picks, but for the most part, this is going to be a pretty quick fire bit of content for you. If you do enjoy the content though, do consider smashing that thumbs up for me. Let's try and reach 50 likes in this video to support the channel growth. And of course, if you want to see more of the channel, then do consider subscribing as well. But let's jump into the content first of all. Let's do an overview of what the video has in store, and then we'll start with the quick fire rounds. So some teams have played more matches than others. What do I mean by that? Well, the data can be skewed. Of course, if you've played 7 matches in one as one asset and you've got 4 matches that another asset has played, they cannot really be directly compared, right? Because the player that's had 7 matches or featured in 7 matches has had more opportunity to score or provide a return. So not always as equal as it may appear. Of course, not all opposition as well has been playing against equal Premier League standard level, let's say, right? There's been a mixed bag of pre-season games happening from lower league football all the way up to, you know, kind of Champions League and Europe level almost. But again, of course, the teams are usually mixed. They're not the starting 11 versus starting 11. The friendly matches usually do include under 21 or youth teams and so on, just to get the managers to really see if any of their their youth club teams and individuals and prospects are coming through the ranks. Of course, some of the first 11 are mixed in as well sometimes. So let's say you've got Phil Foden starting for City, but he may be playing with the likes of Rico Lewis, Cole Palmer, maybe some of their other youth members as well. So maybe his output is affected by the individuals that play around him. So again, take this data with a pinch of salt is, I guess, the message. And of course, the data as well is correct. As of 28th of July, there have been some more games, I think, played since. So not everything is listed in this video, but hopefully it helps. So let's start with the clubs. Let's go with Arsenal all the way through to Wolves, and it will be pretty quick fire, guys. So not going to deep dive into every individual, but of course, I guess the standouts here for me are Saka and Jesus and Trossard. I think Trossard doesn't really come into our thinking too early on in the season. Yeah, I still feel like he's a rotation option. 7 million is an interesting price point, but certainly if he starts getting more minutes, I don't think he's going to be an easy one to ignore. Jesus and Saka, though, haven't really left my draft for the past few weeks. And to be honest, rightly so. Based on this data as well, you can see why. 2 goals, 2 assists for Saka. Worth noting he has missed a penalty, though. Gabriel Jesus, 1 goal, 2 assists. Looking like that 8 million second attacker that I really, really want in my squad. Martinelli, I mean, 1 goal. Yes, he could be being overlooked at the moment, but the pre-season just isn't there for him at the moment. And Odegaard, 2 assists, 8.5 million. So I think I just still prefer Jesus as that second attacker. But let me know your thoughts below in the comments. Next up, we've got Aston Villa. Not too many individuals here to talk about, in my opinion. Digne and Douglas Luiz, for example, never really going to be coming into our FPL thinking more than likely. Diaby's an interesting one. 1 goal already scored at 6.5 million. New signing for of course, Aston Villa this season. Buendia coming in at 6 million as well. 2 goals, 1 assist. Could be a great facilitator. We know how good he was at Norwich before joining Villa, so let's see if he gets nailed at some point during the season. And of course, Ollie Watkins, Mr. Consistent, 2 goals already, so no doubt he comes into play later on this season. With Bournemouth, we have Solanke, 1 assist. Cliver already coming off the mark as well with 2 of them. Billing with 2 goals as well, which is interesting. He seems to be really finding his shooting boots. I definitely think last season he was an individual that got a couple of double-digit hauls there. So at 5.5 million, maybe he becomes a bit of a bench boost or a kind of enabling option later down the line for us. Brentford next up, Henry with 2 assists and of course Wissa with 1 goal. Henry is arguably one of the better 4.5 million defenders for sure. I think his ownership probably warrants that. And Wissa, of course, being 6 million, 0.5 million cheaper than Mbeumo. He's already got off the mark with 1 goal where Mbeumo isn't. Is there an argument that Wissa is actually superior to Mbeumo? Interesting thoughts. I think yes. Brighton next up, we do have João Pedro with 1 goal, 1 assist. 5.5 million price point as well, guys. So I've mentioned it in previous videos, but if you start with someone like Wissa at 6 million and João Pedro looks like that number 10 role is pretty nailed for him, maybe there's an easy move there to save yourself a 0.5 million. Matoma, 1 assist at 6.5, still with an assist as well with that 4.5 million goalkeeper slot. Certainly one to keep an eye on. If him and Verbruggen seem not to be sharing any minutes and still is the nailed number 1 while Verbruggen settles in to deserve his play style, I think he can certainly certainly become the 4.5 million set and forget goalkeeper for the season later on. We've then got Burnley next up. Of course, it's only Brownhill really worth noting that I've put here. I do think Bayer has scored a goal now, though, as well, as a 4 million defender. So I maybe could have put him in the graphic, but it wasn't there when I made the content. Of course, Chelsea up next. Lots of people to talk about here, but we'll only really cover, I think, Nkunku and Jackson in detail. Nkunku with 2 goals at 7.5. Really good numbers so far. But Jackson, honestly, 2 goals, 3 assists, looking really fantastic. I must admit, saving that 0.5 from going from Nkunku to Jackson could be a real solid option. I mean, if he is going to be Chelsea's number 9 and Nkunku's going to be the 10, we could really see some great matchups and link-ups between those two anyway. Mudrik's maybe a bit more of a wait and see at 6.5. Sterling, I'm not too sure about. I'd need to see more numbers and data from him and a bit more consistency. But Chilwell already off the mark with a goal, which is fantastic for him. I definitely think he's the 5.5 million defender of choice for me. Probably above Luke Shaw, to be honest, and maybe even John Stones slightly. But yeah, certainly a great pick there. Moving into Crystal Palace, Eze looking fantastic. Again, at 6.5 million, it was predicted that he would probably be a very, very good asset for our FPL teams this season. And 1 goal, 4 assists, you can already see why, to be honest. Edouard and Mateta, 2 goals either side of them. 2 forwards that are budget options. Again, maybe bench boostable or wildcard options later down the line. But I think Eze is certainly the most interesting pick of these 3 on screen. Everton next up, then really nothing to note here, as I don't think either of these individuals will come into our teams. Iwobi with an assist, Malpe with an assist as well, a goal. I don't think either of these really ever come into our thinking, so sorry Everton fans, but it's just not hitting the mark at the moment. Fulham next up, we've got Wilson with a goal and assist. Interesting at 5.5 million. It's again maybe that awkward price point though that doesn't come into our thinking in game week 1, but maybe later on in the season. Reed with 2 assists and Vinicius with a goal as well. So maybe since Mitrovic is looking like he's trying to force that move, of course, they have signed Raul Jimenez, so maybe Vinicius is still second in the pecking order. But if he comes to the forefront as well, he could be an interesting option at 5 million as a budget enabler. We've got Liverpool next up. McAllister, 1 assist, already off the mark. But of course, it's those other midfielders in Jota, Salah, Darwin and Gakpo, all looking like fantastic options. It's just about rotation, right, on what type of output we're going to get from them. Darwin's off the mark with the most, with 3 goals and 1 assist. Gakpo with 1 goal, 1 assist, equal to Salah as well, and 2 goals and 1 assist for Diogo Jota. So very interesting outputs across the midfield and forward options there. And of course, Trent coming in with an assist already. So maybe some disappointing numbers from him in pre-season, as I think maybe more people would have kept him in the draft, let's say, if there was more attacking threat there. Then we've got Morris for Luton up next. 2 goals already scored for him, so basically starting off where he left off, really, in terms of the Championship. Still scoring goals for Luton, and I think he will continue to do that, even in the Premier League. Of course, City, there have been plenty of output here. John Stones, 1 to note there at 5.5 million, already scoring a goal. Same for Laporte, although I do think Stones is probably more nailed in that defensive position. Haaland's already off the mark with 2 goals. And then Alvarez and Foden, interesting choices, I think, really. We've got a goal and 2 assists for Alvarez at 6.5 million. Maybe could he play that Gundogan position, or does Foden slot into that role? Not too sure yet, but I'm definitely interested in watching how City develop over those first few game weeks. Foden with 2 assists already at 7.5 million. I know he's going to be a popular pick for sure for game week 1, and he may make my draft as well. United been a bit disappointing so far with overall attacking output. It isn't really surprising for me though, as we still haven't got an out-and-out number 9. It is worth noting we have been playing quite a lot of our youth members though in some of the friendlies, but only 1 goal from Fernandes, 1 goal from Sancho is worth noting. Of course, Fernandes did have quite a few efforts. Mount's doing very well. Against Real Madrid, I think there was a plenty of chances. We just didn't score any goals. So, yeah, nothing more to note from us, unfortunately, so far. With Newcastle, though, Almiron, 2 goals already, £6.5 million midfielder. Another budget option that did have a purple patch pre-World Cup last season and maybe can get back to his best. And especially, at that price point when we've got other individuals around there, March, Matoma, Mbermo, etc., Eze, maybe we can shift a few of these individuals around to get to those purple patches as best possible. Then we've got the 2 forwards there of Isak and Wilson also looking consistent with a goal apiece, and Isak with that extra assist. We've then got Forest. Unfortunately, nothing really to note of these guys. Yates and Danilo. 1 goal, 1 assist for Yates, 1 goal for Danilo. Would have liked to have seen Morgan Gibbs-White here in and amongst it, but I'm not sure how many minutes he's played in pre-season yet. So sorry, Forest fans. Again, nothing really to talk about here. Same for Sheffield United equally. I don't know enough about the individuals really to talk about them, but 1 assist for McBurney, 1 for Ndiaye. I mean, I don't think these individuals are going to come into our teams. There's just too many other options from superior clubs in those attacking roles, right? So don't think we ever see these come into our FPL teams. Next up, we've got Spurs. Kane already scoring a goal, though looking like he's possibly on the move from Spurs. £12.5 million means that the next best person, essentially, could possibly be either Heung-min Son, saving you £3.5 million, or this man next to him, Richarlison, showing 3 goals already at £7 million. And being listed as a midfielder means he gets clean sheet points and extra points for scoring. So could he be that Kane replacement at 7 million? Looks like he could easily get into the starting 11 if Kane goes. So definitely one to watch. And Perisic there with 1 assist as well. We've then got West Ham up next. I think really the only person to note here is Bowen. I think he's probably the most nailed out of all these individuals here. 3 goals, 3 assists at only £7 million. Maybe an interesting price point, not from game week 1, but only 0.5 more than that 6.5 million slot. So certainly think he could come to fruition. Ings will probably share minutes more than likely with Antonio, so I don't think he'll ever really come into play. Same for Creswell, bit of competition there for him. Of course, Ben Rama's an interesting choice. Looks like he could be on penalties, only racking up 1 assist so far, but again, coming in at that cheaper 6 million mark. And then, of course, Cornet. I think he's had so many troubles with injuries. I think he would be a hard avoid for me, even though he scored a goal and got an assist. And finally, we have Wolves. We've got Cunha coming in with 2 goals, and of course, Sarabia with 1 goal and 1 assist. I don't think Wolves come into our thinking too early into the season. Maybe when the fixtures swing a little bit, there's someone or a few individuals we can maybe consider. Cunha is definitely an interesting price point there at 5.5 million, but I think they're a wait and see for me. So that's to wrap up the video, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that quick fire content. Of course, it is something I've not done before, something a little bit new. Hopefully you enjoyed that style, and of course you can always go back, pause the video if you want more screenshots or details of the output. All the data has come from Fantasy Football Scout as well, so definitely check them out to improve your stance in your mini league or your FPL knowledge. And of course, last but not least, guys, if you did enjoy the video, smash that thumbs up. Let's try and get 50 likes to help the channel grow. And finally, if you want to see more content like this, then hit that subscribe button below. See you in the next video, guys, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.